Sand veiled the twin suns in a copper haze as Garrick's battered cargo hauler shrieked. Across the upper atmosphere of Curie 3, the ship, trailing sparks like orange fireflies, dipped into the desert's jagged skyline, every warning light on. His console screamed for attention, yet Garrick's grip on the yoke remained calm. Panic never mended metal. He guided the ship through a controlled crash, grinding across the dunes until the hauler came to a jolting halt beneath swaying cracked palms. He staggered from the cockpit, sweat sticking his shirt to his back, and spotted it half buried in sand not 20 meters away. An alien escape pod, its canopy blown clear. Ruby strobes blinked from its cracked hull. Instinct overrode caution. Garrick slid down the dune and approached, calling out a greeting. A low growl answered from within. He paused, assessing the figure. Inside, humanoid, black formatted with blood and coolant, one arm bent unnaturally. The retractable claws on her hands were retracted. Good, not feral. He slipped his arms beneath her frame and lifted carefully. Heavy, but not unmanageable. She hissed at the movement, golden eyes flashing open. "I'm not here to hurt you," Garrick murmured, voice low and steady. "Let's get you out of this heat." He carried her toward a glimmering oasis he'd spotted earlier, shade and water surrounded by cracked palms and thorny brush. In a makeshift tent strung between two leaning trees, he laid her on a bedroll, applied sealant foam to her gashes, and used a bone knitter salvaged from his medkit to set her fractured arm. She endured in silence, save for the occasional low grunt of pain. "You risk much, human," she said finally, voice rough but melodic. "Life debt binds. I'm not collecting debts." Garrick replied, "Just fixing what's broken," as if summoned by fate. A shadow fell across the tent entrance. Garrick turned, eyes narrowing at the figure silhouetted in the dusk taller than the injured one. Violet fur bristling, armor dented and scorched. She moved with power, plasma claws glowing faintly. At her fingertips, "Who touches my kin?" she growled. "Garrick," he said evenly, lifting grease-stained hands. "I found her in the pod. Just patched her up. No claims." The violet-furred huntress stared him down, then glanced at her injured sister, her expression softened by degrees. "I am Leela, alpha born of the Taurith line. You act beyond your role. Human, if the role is leaving someone to die, then yeah, I did." A sound like a purr or a scoff rumbled in her chest, but she said no more. Then the sound of turbines echoed across the dunes. Leela single quotes. S ears twitched. "Scavenger cartel. They come to kill." "Then let's not be here when they arrive," Garrick said, moving outside and pointing to his downed hauler. "I can rig the coolant cells into cryo traps. Might buy us time." Alien, his patient, sat up with a wince. "Her name is Island," she said quietly, "and we fight with you." A brittle alliance was forged in the shadows of the oasis. As night fell, the sky turned cobalt, and the dunes hummed with danger. Garrick worked fast, setting up his makeshift traps, hands nimble and confident. The sisters watched him closely, occasionally exchanging quick, sharp words in a language that danced like wind over broken glass. He placed coolant bombs beneath loose rocks, rigged motion sensors along dune paths, and marked escape routes in the sand. Inside the tent, Island rested. Outside, Leela watched Garrick. "You are not like the others," she said. "Humans I met before were loud, arrogant. Most people are." "Regardless of species," Garrick replied. "I just like machines better. They're honest." Leela tilted her head. "Machines don't argue over mates." He stiffened. "You and your sister think this is about that. I'm not interested in. You saved her. You shared space. In our clan, such things matter. Where I come from, that just means not being an ass." Before she could answer, Island's voice rang out. "They come." Turbines crested the dune. Shadows flanked the moonlight. Scavenger marks. The sisters flanked Garrick as he activated the cryo charges. Frost blasted up the slope, freezing to scouts mid-run. Leela dashed into the fight, claws slicing through one assailant's armor. Island backed Garrick, covering his flank with graceful, brutal strikes. Garrick fired bursts from his pulse rifle, pinning enemies behind rocks. One tried to flank them only to step onto a coolant charge and vanish in a blast of icy mist. The battle was short, but vicious. When it ended, smoke curled from burned brush and melting frost. Bodies littered the sands. In the silence after, Garrick sat down hard, back against a scorched boulder. Leela stood over him. Panting, "You fight well," she said, "for someone not seeking a bond. I fight because I want to live, not because I want to be claimed." Island limped forward. "But you did not run. You stayed." He looked at both of them, their eyes, gold and violet, locked on him not with hunger but with something closer to understanding. "Because unfinished work," he said quietly, "whether it's a ship, a wound, or a truce is something a good engineer doesn't leave behind." Leela grinned. Island gave a small nod. And for the first time since his ship fell from the sky, Garrick felt like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone in this fight. Sen swallowed the horizon. Wind hissing between ancient boulders scattered across the salt flats of Nymir 6. The world was desolate, scorched, and still until a lone figure stumbled into view. Her cloak tattered by heat gusts, boots dragging. Furrows behind her. Her name was Talon, half-caste and exile. She had wandered the outlands since her teenage years. After her clan cast her aside for refusing to take a mate by edict, they said she defied tradition. They didn't say how her heart had broken for someone not of her kind. She'd heard whispers. Over the last few cycles, rumors of two huntresses locked in a strange trial of affection over a human shipwright. Strange enough on its own, but the source had been the scavenger channels. And Talon knew what that meant. Salvage, conflict, secrets, perhaps even redemption. Her eyes, slitted and weary, caught the glint of something in the dust, a scorch mark. Half buried by sand, she crouched, brushing the grains aside with clawed fingers. Burned coolant. Recent, only a day, maybe less. A distant rumble broke the silence, not thunder. Engines. Talin sprinted, cloak whipping behind her. Her ship, an old ore runner she'd reworked into a stealth skiff, sat disguised in a canyon's narrow wound. She dropped into the pilot's seat and slammed the ignition. The panels flickered to life. She angled her scanners to trace the direction of the blast signature. And there it was, the aftermath of a skirmish. Plasma residues, crushed palms, and scorched desert. Her jaw tightened. The cartel had been here, and someone had survived. She tapped the console. A small screen flickered. Encoded distress signals danced across the display, overlaid with a signature she hadn't seen in cycles. Alien, her cousin. Talon's breath hitched. Alien had vanished from her clan's trace years ago, after refusing to bond with the mate assigned to her. The same reason Talon had left. If she was here, it meant she'd found something worth breaking every bond law over. And that meant Talon would find her. The gate core pulsed below. Heat shimmered across the air. Garrick crouched beneath a fractured beam, prying open a damaged console while Leela kept watch. He was silent, but his every motion carried precision, urgency. Not just for the relay, but for something deeper he wasn't ready to name. Leela studied him. She still hadn't figured out what drew her sister so fiercely to him. She respected him, his calm under fire, his refusal to be owned, but the tension between them was thick. Not distrust, not quite desire. Something in between. Alien entered from the side chamber, carrying a power cell. This should stabilize the next charge. She handed it to Garrick, who nodded, fingers already working. "How long until the tunnel stabilizer resets?" Leela asked, ears twitching. "If the capacitor holds, 15 minutes. Then the gate's ready." Alien moved closer, watching Garrick with that soft look again. Leela exhaled sharply and turned away. "We're going to have company. It's never this quiet for long." She was right. A soft knock echoed through the tunnels, followed by the click of claws against metal. Alien stiffened. Garrick looked up. And Talon stepped into the light. Her cloak fell back as she entered. Black and gray fur, eyes like storm glass. Alien gasped. "Talon." Leela stepped forward instantly, placing herself between Garrick and the newcomer. Her claws hummed to life. "What are you doing here?" Talon raised her hands slowly, looking for answers, "and for you." Alien crossed the chamber and embraced her cousin. The contact was brief, but not cold. Old pain. Old blood. "How did you find us?" Alien asked. "I traced the distress signal and the cartel chatter. I thought you were dead." "Not yet." though they keep trying. Talon's eyes flicked to Garrick. He's the one they're fighting over? Leela's ears flattened. We're not fighting. Not anymore. Garrick, tired of being spoken around, stood. My name's Garrick. If you're here to help, great. If not, I didn't cross half the galaxy to watch. Talon smiled faintly. I'm here because if the cartel's after you, it means something bigger is going on. And if it involves a pre-Empire gate core, then you're in over your heads. We already know that. Alien said. Do you know what kind of gate this is? Silence. Talon walked to the control panel, brushed her palm across the interface. It didn't respond to her like it had for Alien. She frowned. This isn't just a jump gate. It's a splice tether, experimental tech from before the fragmentation wars. One of only 3 ever built. It doesn't just jump ships, it rips spacetime wide open. Leela cursed under her breath. That's why the cartel wants it? Garrick looked at Talon. Can we shut it down permanently? Maybe, but it would take a precise overload. And we'd have to be clear of the blast radius, or we jump it first, Alien said. Take it beyond reach. Talon hesitated. That would expose the tether. It might collapse the canyon. Or us. Double quotes, Leela growled. So it's suicide either way. Not if we move fast. We set charges. Rig the outer shell to detonate after the jump. Leave them nothing. Alien looked at Garrick. Can you do it? He met her gaze, then nodded. I'll need 10 minutes and a clean relay. Talon watched as Garrick and Alien worked side by side, sensing power cells, splicing conduits. Leela stood near the entrance, scanning for movement. Talin joined her. You still don't trust me? You left. You didn't say goodbye. Neither did she. Talon replied, nodding toward Alien. She had no choice, and I did. The silence was bitter, but not hateful. Leela finally spoke. You came back. That's more than most. Not for redemption, Talon said, but maybe for closure. Leela nodded once, then looked toward Alien. She's changed. He changed her. And you? I don't know yet. The detonators were in place. The relay pulsed clean. Ready, Garrick said. Talin. Move to the console. I'll initiate the charge sequence. Alien, take the core. You and your human go first. Leela and I will hold the tunnel. Alien hesitated, then nodded. She took the core, now housed in a stabilizer cage. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat. I'll see you on the other side, she said, and stepped into the gate with Garrick. A surge of light, the sound of air tearing, and they were gone. Leela stared at the space they'd vanished from. Talon touched her arm. Now we finish this. Leela's voice was low. If we survive, we talk. Everything. We will, and we will. They turned to face the tunnel. Footsteps echoed in the dark. The gate spit Garrick and Alien into cold vacuum. They tumbled for a moment in weightlessness before the tether's backup stabilizers engaged. A shell of blue light wrapped around them, warping space just enough to simulate gravity and breathable air. The echo drift, one of the lost transit corridors from before the war spread before them. Like a hollowed-out nebula, swirls of black and violet, riddled with suspended debris, derelict ships, and shattered time beacons. Alien steadied herself, adjusting the grip on the stabilizer core. Her eyes scanned the wreckage-strewn corridor. Welcome to the drift, she whispered. Garrick looked around, brow furrowed. Are we alone? For now, the drift's unstable. Most sensors won't track anything inside unless you're within line of sight. They floated toward the nearest hull fragment, the remains of what had once been a diplomatic cruiser. Alien anchored them to its dorsal spine and activated a beacon subtle, encrypted. Just enough for Talon and Leela to follow when they jumped. Garrick leaned against the shattered frame. What happens if they can't make it through? Alien didn't answer at first. She set the core into a field cradle and began adjusting its oscillators. The pulse of light inside it flickered with every tweak, alive and reactive, like it felt something too. Then we wait, she said. And if the drift collapses before they get here, we find another way out. Together. Garrick studied her face. You trust Talon? I trust who she used to be. I want to trust who she is now. They sat in silence for a moment. The hum of the field cage their only companion. Alien, Garrick said, voice quieter than before. Why did you risk everything to come after me? She looked at him and didn't look away, because when you were captured, I realized something I'd tried to ignore. I don't care about the clan's laws or the codes we broke. I care that I wasn't there for you when it mattered. He blinked. So this is about guilt? She shook her head. No, it's about choosing you. I always should have. A long silence. Then, we don't have to figure this out now, he said. But the softness in his voice betrayed him. No. She agreed, stepping closer. But we will. Their foreheads touched a brief moment of gravity in a gravity-less world. Back on Nymir 6, the gate shimmered. Talon and Leela stood at its threshold, listening to the sounds of combat echoing from the far tunnels. Cartel troopers not many, but enough. Leela adjusted her gauntlet-mounted blade. No time for subtlety. We jump now. Talon frowned. Too early, and we risk instability. Then we fight. Together. The words caught Talon off guard. Not the suggestion they'd fought together as children, but the certainty in Leela's voice. They took position, side by side. The first wave of cartel enforcers rounded the bend. It was chaos-scorched metal, flung debris, plasma bolts cracking the walls. Leela lunged into the fray, claws flashing, silent and surgical. Talon followed, more brutal in her strikes. Two opposing styles, bound by blood. By the time the last enforcer fell, smoke and fire danced across the entryway. Talon stumbled, panting. Now, we go. Leela helped her up. They limped into the gate's threshold and vanished. The echo drift shimmered again. Alien's beacon blinked, then flared. Talon and Leela slammed into existence near the cruiser's wreck. Alien ran to them as Garrick prepped the medical kit. You made it, Alien said. Talon smirked. Told you. Leela sagged against the hull. Garrick caught her, stabilizing her weight. She looked up at him. Don't say anything. I'm fine. He just nodded and handed her a stim pack. As the four of them gathered in the remains of the ancient ship, Alien checked the core. Its pulses were faster now, like it sensed proximity. What's wrong with it? Talon asked. Not wrong. It's reacting. Garrick frowned. To what? Alien turned to him. To a signal. The drift isn't just a corridor, it's a vault. There's something else here. Something the cartel was after. What kind of something? Alien smiled, faintly. Let's go find out. Heat shimmered above the canyon's torn rim. The gate's rupture having cracked stone and scorched everything within reach. In the center, only silence remained until the air convulsed, and light twisted into form. Alien and Garrick dropped into the new world like two meteors. They landed hard in a scorched forest beneath 3 violet suns, ash raining from above. The core's stabilizer had held, barely. Alien coughed, body bruised but intact, and turned to find Garrick already pulling himself up. We made it, he said, voice raw. Wherever here is. She scanned the horizon. Trees curled upward like claws. A broken satellite dish protruded from black soil nearby. The place was uncharted ghost tech. Dead colonies, remnants of lost warfronts. A perfect hiding place. Alien touched the gate tether embedded in the stabilizer housing. It was dim, pulsing weakly. We have to move. The tether's still leaking energy. It'll pull others through if they find the signal. Garrick nodded. Already lifting the core. Then let's bury it, and fast. Back on Nymir 6, the canyon screamed. Talon and Leela sprinted through the collapsing tunnels as explosions followed like thunderclaps. Behind them, the cartel squad had broken through earlier than expected, faster, more organized. They're adapting. Talon hissed, shoulders singed from a near miss. Doesn't matter. We're sealing this whole passage. They reached the final switch. Leela slammed the mechanism, and the secondary charges triggered. Fire roared through the tunnel. Metal groaned. Walls collapsed. Silence returned, thick with dust. The 2 Huntresses collapsed behind a blast door. Panting. Did they make it? Leela finally asked. Talon tapped a receiver patch. Static. Then a pulse. 1 heartbeat. 2. Confirmation. They did. Leela let her head fall back against the wall. Then now what? We can't follow, no. But we can make sure no one else does. Talon stood slowly. Her eyes burned. We disappear. Make them think we died down here. Then track the cartel's fallback routes. They won't stop. And if they reach the tether from another angle, Then we stop them before they do." Leela gave a tired grin. "You always did love impossible odds. It's in our blood." Alien and Garrick buried the core beneath obsidian roots. That it wasn't much, but it would dampen the energy for now. They found temporary shelter inside the ruined satellite bunker. There were enough supplies for a week. More than that, there was a transmitter array. Alien scanned through dead channels until a flicker lit up on waveband 900.6, a scavenger frequency. Obsolete. She patched in a message. "To anyone listening, this is not a distress call. This is a warning. The cartel has breached the outer defense lines. They're chasing something beyond even their understanding. Don't follow us. Don't trace this signal. Just know this. World isn't safe anymore." She cut transmission. Garrick leaned in the doorway, watching her. "You think they'll listen? No." He smiled sadly. "You ever regret it? Leaving your clan? Running instead of staying?" She turned. Her expression softened. "I regret not finding you sooner." He crossed the room, took her hand. "We're not out of this, not yet. But I'm with you." Her grip tightened. "Always outside." The sky shifted. A faint shimmer rippled across the air like a gate pulse, echoing. Someone else was coming. The rupture snapped open like a screaming wound across the sky. Garrick stumbled forward. Clutching the stabilizer cage, Alien caught his arm. Eyes wide as the canyon behind them disintegrated into light and shrapnel. Then silence. Cold. The space between jumps was always thin, brittle, unreal. But this was different. They didn't land in the next sector. They fell into stars. The tether hadn't just jumped them. It had unmoored them, torn them out of charted lanes, spit them into a system no Navnet recognized. Garrick's console blinked blankly. Alien exhaled, fingers trembling against the cage. The core pulsed steady in its housing. "Where are we?" Garrick whispered. Alien looked out the viewport. Nowhere mapped. But the sky's alive. And it was. Stars blinked in colors unseen in known space. Nebulae writhed like breath. And orbiting close a ringed moon with an atmosphere. Oxygenated. Habitable. Garrick glanced at her. "You think they made it?" "They had to." But doubt gnawed. They steered toward the moon. The skiff trembling from residual flux. The stabilizer was dying. If they didn't land now, they wouldn't land at all. Back at the canyon's edge, the light had collapsed. Talon and Leela stood alone beneath falling ash. No sign of pursuit. No echo of the cartel. Leela's claws retracted slowly. Did it work? Talon examined her wrist. Calm. No pings, no return trace. Just emptiness. They're gone. Jumped clean. The tether's gone too. No gate. No core signature. Leela closed her eyes. "Then we did it." Talon nodded. "Now we survive." The ringed moon was no paradise. It greeted Garrick and Alien with storm's ash winds, rolling quakes, but beneath it all, ruins, ancient and pulsing faintly with the same energy as the gate core. They set up shelter in one of the old outposts, shielded beneath rock. No comms, no escape. But they were alive. Weeks passed. Alien explored. Garrick rebuilt what he could from the shattered tech. He fashioned a signal tower, barely strong enough to pulse a message across a sector if there was a sector near enough. And still, she stayed. One evening, beneath twin moons, she asked, "Why didn't you choose Leela?" Garrick looked up from the makeshift transmitter. "She didn't choose me. She chose the fight." "You chose us." Alien smiled faintly. "You're not afraid." "Of what?" "Being forgotten. Stuck here forever." He stood, walked to her. "If this is where we vanish, it's not the worst place. Not if I'm with you." She leaned in. "Then let's vanish together." They kissed beneath alien stars. Not the first time, but the first without fear. Talon and Leela left Nymir. 2 weeks later. Their ship was slow, patched, and stolen from a cartel skimmer. But it worked. They found no trace of Garrick or Alien. And yet, every few weeks, a pulse would ping faintly across the net, encrypted, old style, buried beneath white noise. A message from a lost moon. Always the same. "We survived. We're together. Don't come for us. Let the stars keep this." Leela never replied. But every time she saw the stars, she looked toward that one unmapped sector and smiled.